Hey guys, what up? Dorothea here. Welcome back for any returning viewers, and welcome if this is your first time. My name is Dorothea. I touch on a lot of different subjects on my channel. As of late, the topic I've been covering the most is my life here in Brazil, what I'm doing, what it's like, different vlogs, all different kind of style videos, and it is by far the most commonly requested video for me to touch on the details of what it's like to be here in the favela. I made a video about this. I'll put a link to it down below, breaking down the cost of living, what my experience has been, why I chose to live in the favela. For those of you who don't know, the favela is basically the Brazilian word for a slum, although I don't like that translation. It is a community that is usually on the side of a hill. They are these kind of rogue dwellings that people, by necessity over time, have felt the need to build and construct coming into the mountains of Rio. So they're famous for having really good views, although not all favelas are built on hills. Not all favelas have views. Mine does. I have a spectacular view of the ocean right next to me. I've made a list here that I'm going to go through the different pros and cons of living in the favela, what it's like, why I love it, and why sometimes I really don't love it. When I was making this list, I was noticing that basically the pros and cons are two sides of the same coin. I'm gonna break it down for you guys into 5 different categories, and each of these 5 different points have a plus and a minus, have a positive and a negative, a pro and a con. The first distinctive feature of living in the favela, like I said, not all of them are on a hill, but the majority of them, at least here in Rio, at least here in Zona Sul, which is where I live, are on a hill. What does this mean? It means that you have to hike up. You literally have to trudge your way up a pretty decent hill to get home every day. Sometimes, you know, if I'm feeling lazy, I take a moto taxi. Even where the moto taxi drops me off, I still have to walk up some stairs and, you know, go through the favela a bit where the taxi can't go. The pro side of this is that it's exercise. You know, I say that kind of half jokingly, but it is very true, and I've noticed that my endurance for just simply walking, which is so simple, has really gone up, and it's really helped me maintain a physique, if you will. Like, I don't have to go to the gym, I don't have to really worry as long as I get out every day. Not even every day, but, you know, just motivating myself when I'm at the bottom, just to be like, okay, am I gonna pay for a moto taxi or am I gonna walk up today? I'm gonna walk up because I'm strong, it's not that far away, and here we go. Just kind of like motivating myself to get my ass up the hill. Another pro to living on the side of the mountain is that I have a beautiful view, as I previously mentioned. A big con to this is that sometimes I just stay at home because I don't want to leave. I don't want to have to go down because I don't want to have to come up. Naturally, you're going to get cabin fever. You're going to be like kind of irritable and just like, oh, what's wrong with me? Oh yeah, I haven't been out of the house in 3 days. It also means that whenever you buy anything, most notably food items, you have to lug them up the hill. You have to carry them. I can buy groceries in the favela where I live. There are little like mercadinhos, little markets, but everything's a little bit more expensive because they had to bring it up. So naturally it's going to cost a little bit more. So if I want the best prices, I have to go down, which means I have to come up, and I have to strategically plan out what I'm gonna buy so that I can carry it, because sometimes I have a lot of heavy items to buy, a lot of, I don't know, olive oil or pasta, tomato sauce, just different things that add up really quickly in weight, and I have to calculate that and think about that as I'm doing my grocery shopping, which is just kind of annoying, to be honest. It's just annoying. The next point that I have is the question of safety. This is really interesting because I actually feel safer in the favela than I do down on the street in regards to the question of getting robbed. People do not steal from you in the favela. I don't want to say it will never happen because anything can happen, but it is so rare because the consequences that you pay here are much more serious than on the street. In the street, people can grab stuff off of you while you're passing by. They'll come by on their bikes. They'll kind of like jump into you, like if you're on the side of the window in the bus. There's lots and lots of stories of this happening. I've been attacked myself on the street more than once. Every single time anything like that has happened to me, it's been on the street level. Nothing like that would happen in the favela. I could be out counting money, $100 reais bills, and no one would bat an eye. People, I might draw attention to myself, but no one would actually come up to me and try and steal it. That is because here in the favela, the people who rule are the traficantes, which is the drug dealers. If anyone steals, or the other biggie is if anyone beats you, like if you get in a physical fight, especially if it's domestic abuse, word gets out, everyone talks, gossip goes around like that. The traficantes will find out, and the consequences are really intense. If you steal, for example, the least of which they'll do to you would be to shave your head. So that's kind of like a signal that makes you stand out from everyone. Another thing that they might do is cut off a limb. I know this sounds really barbaric, but this is just the reality. This is Brazil. You will see people sometimes walking out on the streets and they won't have limbs. And yes, sometimes it's because of medical things that have happened to them, but more often than not, you can just kind of tell by looking at them most of the time, to be honest. Okay, yeah, that person got in trouble. Something happened to them in the favela. And of course, the most extreme thing that could happen to you if you're caught robbing or, you know, getting involved with domestic abuse at home is that they'll kill you. I don't want to sugarcoat anything. This is the truth. So that's how the traficantes will deal with you. Because people know that that's what happens, they don't mess with you. They don't bother. Whereas on the street, you're much more likely to get robbed, to get attacked, for something to happen. So I don't want to scare anyone to come to Brazil, because everyone, I feel like, has this idea, especially of Rio, that it's the most dangerous city in the world. I have not found that to be true. Even after my personal experiences getting attacked more than once, I can look back at those experiences and see exactly what I did that made myself vulnerable, and I know not to do those things again. So the question of robbery and domestic abuse, yeah, you're safer in the favela. But as far as bullets go, you will hear gunshots. That's not to say you're likely to get shot, because I think anywhere in Rio there is like a higher chance than probably most cities in the world of getting shot. This tends to happen in favelas, not in my favela, although we do hear gunshots every now and then. In more of the favelas in Zona Norte, in the North Zone, or just some other more dangerous favelas here in Zona Sul, because each favela kind of has its own feel and vibe, you will hear stories of an attack going on between two different gangs that, you know, one of them is occupying the favela and another one's coming in trying to take over so that they can sell their drugs and make money there, or of a police invasion, you know, the police coming in to try and pacify the favela, and there'll be a shootout. And this happens with somewhat frequency. I'm kind of numb to it now. I don't like to admit that, but it's true. Honestly, like, you hear gunshots and it's just like, okay, it's part of life. You hear stories every once in a while of someone, an innocent bystander, getting shot because they were mistaken for a police, or they were mistaken for a traficante, or just they were in the wrong place at the wrong time. That happens. If you hear gunshots, you stay home, you stay where you are. Just play it smart. You get used to it. The third point I have for you is this sense of community. This is a really cool, good thing, I think, because you meet a lot of people that you wouldn't meet otherwise. You make friends with your neighbors. People are very friendly and very willing to help you. If you're, you know, out of eggs or out of salt or something, you can just knock on your neighbor's door and ask for a favor. There are a lot of gringos that live in the favela, gringos being anyone that's not Brazilian. I feel like the favela attracts the misfits. Like, we're all just kind of misfit people that live here, that choose to live here. I guess I would classify myself as that in some ways. But you will find more people like yourself. So if you're attracted to living in the favela and you have the option, a lot of Brazilians don't have the option. The people that live here, they have to because it's the cheapest option. But if you're from the outside and you're coming here and you want to live in the favela, then you're going to find other gringos here, because there are a lot of other gringos. They're probably going to have a lot of things in common with you because you're both attracted to this living environment. I've made some of my best friends here living in the favela, both Brazilians and non-Brazilians. The con side of living in a community is that everyone hears everything. Everyone's living in really close quarters, and so if you get in a fight with your significant other or with a friend or something happens, then everyone's gonna hear about it and know about it pretty quickly. You also will stand out if you're not from here. If you're a gringo, you will stand out as a gringo. People will see you and they'll even call you like the gringo. Where I used to live in Chapamangueira, which is the other favela just on the other side of the hill, people used to call me lovingly, very lovingly, but they used to call me camarão, which means shrimp. And that was because my tone of skin is very pink to them. They look at me and they're like, wow, you're a shrimp. Especially after I would spend the whole day at the beach and I'd come back and I was sun-kissed. That's just to say that you stand out as a gringo in the favela. The fourth one that I'm looking at here now, I already pretty much touched on, which is groceries. The convenience of having them right here is one great thing. You can just go down. Every Thursday there's a food truck that comes that sells fresh produce, kind of at the halfway point between these two favelas. I go there and everything weighs the same, so some things are a little bit more expensive, but most things are actually quite cheaper than what you'd find at the market, at the grocery store. I mean, you get a good deal. You don't have to walk all the way down to the street. The fifth and last point I'm going to to touch on is this question of rent and housing. The con side is that housing here is 100% cheaper. It is so affordable. You can choose to live in a little dugout hole that's going to cost you 200 reais, like less than $100 per month, which is going to be really shitty and you're not going to like it, but there's that option. And you can also live in like a really nice house. It always shocks me at some of the houses here because everything kind of looks the same. It's all built in the same fashion on the outside, but you never know, never judge a favela house by its cover, I guess, because whenever you walk in, you never know what you're gonna find. I've seen some beautiful, stunning, very modern, very chic houses here that, you know, if you're renting, they're gonna be 1,000 reais or more, which is competitive with the prices down below. But in general, you can find a really decent house for 500 to 800 reais per month. 1 to 2 bedrooms with a kitchen and a bath and a living area, sometimes a terrace. Furnished, not furnished, depends as well. You just kind of have to come here, figure it out. There's some Facebook groups that will post different availabilities. You can't really pre-prepare before you come. You just have to be here and talk to the people in person. It's very negotiable, the prices, especially if you have the money and you're willing to just put it down and you show them, you know, they're offering you their house for 800 reais a month, say, and you say, okay, can we do 700? Here's 700. Then they're much more likely to accept that and say, yeah, let's do 700, done deal. There's also no contracts here, which I really appreciate because I never know what's gonna happen in my life. You know, 1 month to the next, things can change really quickly. I like to not have this contract hovering over my head. The con side of not having a contract is, of course, that your landlord can essentially kick you out at any point, but I've never had a problem with that. I think as long as you're a good renter, then they'd rather get the money from you every month than to kick you out. I mentioned in my previous video that there's free water and electricity here. Electricity is kind of a case-by-case situation. I wasn't super clear on that in my original video, but I have gotten charged an electric bill in some houses that I've lived in and some not. Where I'm living currently, I do not pay for water or electricity. I've never actually paid for water, but electricity just kind of depends on the house, and I don't know how that is logistically worked out with the city. Like I said, when you come here, you're finding a house, you're poking around, you're trying to figure out a deal. That's one thing you ask. You ask, is it furnished? You ask, does it have free electricity? There's some really strange layouts of the houses. I've never been in a favela house that's been totally like squared off. There's always these weird nooks and crannies, and it's really kind of funny as for me as a Westerner coming here and being like how did they design this? Like, what was the thought process? There's no thought process. That's the point. Like, they just build these houses on top of each other and they fit them in however they can. Another con side of this, of living in the favela, which is probably one of the most annoying parts when it happens, which it doesn't happen all the time, and especially right now we're in winter, but when it's summer here, when it's really hot and all you want to do is take a shower and you go to turn on the water and nothing comes out. We go through a lot of water outages. This summer was the worst, I feel like. I think the longest one lasted like 7 days. 7 days without running water in the house, and I have a baby. What? This happens because there is a finite amount of water here, and when it's all used up, or when they're having to change the system, which happens sometimes, or there's a million and one reasons why this happens, but it happens really commonly, especially in the hotter weather months. Usually it's resolved pretty quick, like within 24 to 48 hours it's resolved, but I've just learned to have a few liters of water like tucked away under the sink in case of an emergency. I have that water tucked away. I also, in this house particularly, we have like a caixa de agua, which is a big tank of water above the house that's connected to the piping in the bathroom. So it's very rare that we're without water for a shower. We have water in the bathroom, and if we're without water, then it first hits here. I have a sink here, there's the washing machine and the kitchen that it affects, which is really annoying. It's not fun to have dirty dishes stack up and attract flies and all of that, but like I said, it doesn't happen a whole lot. Maybe I'm just exaggerating it in my mind because I'm thinking about it in terms of being a mom and having a kid. It just feels a lot more extreme because I remember this used to happen where I used to live. We would have these water outages for a day or two, sometimes 3 days, maybe 4 days max. And yeah, it was annoying, but it never got to me in the same way. Like, now it just really annoys me and I have like zero patience for it. And on the same note, sometimes, much more rarely, we will experience a power outage. This usually happens when there's a strong storm that blows through, a tree falls and it breaks a power line or something like that. and we'll go usually no more than 24 hours without electricity. So that's usually resolved pretty quickly, but it does happen every once in a while, and you'll see like the whole favela just goes black. I've learned again to be prepared and have candles on the ready at the go, have lighters, have matches, and just be ready to light the house. I hope this video helped you guys. If you're looking to move to Brazil, if you're interested in moving into the favela, I would love to answer any more questions that you have. I don't mean to scare you with this video, that's not the point. I really just want to be as transparent as possible and tell you like the truth of what it's like to live here. I can't stress enough that your experience in the favela will depend largely on you and your attitude, but also it will depend on the favela that you move to. There are a lot of different favelas, hundreds of favelas here in Rio. Every single one of them is different. Every one of them has a different vibe, a different feel, a different, danger, question of danger or safety. The favela where I live in, I believe the population is estimated around 4,000 people, which is relatively small. There are smaller favelas, but here it's about 4,000, 5,000 people. In comparison with Rocinha, which has like hundreds of thousands of people. It's its own city, like it's its own place. And obviously a favela that's that big is going to have a lot more resources. You're not going to have to go all the way down to the middle of the city to get your groceries. They're going to have actual grocery stores in the favela. My experience, what I just shared with you, is really specific to where I am. There are favelas that are much more dangerous, where gunshots are just like popping all the time, every couple minutes or every other hour. Here, like I said, it's really rare. Maybe once every 2 weeks I'll hear like a boom, boom, boom. It's usually happening in the other favela right next door. Like I said, there's 2 of us here, like right on the same mountain. Let's just say it's safe enough for me to feel good about raising my son here, and I wouldn't want to raise my son in anywhere that I felt there would be a threat of danger. So take that for what it's worth. Alright guys, I hope this video was helpful for you. If you liked it, please give me a big thumbs up. Give me a follow on Instagram. My name is Dorothea __V, and I will see you guys next time. Ciao, beijos.